All right, welcome in another Tuesday evening, the Questionable Podcast. You got Scotty Questions here tonight with Meko.
What's good, man?
And Gionne on the West Coast.
Hello.
Hello, Gionne. How are you today?
Doing great.
Great. Meko's not here today. We're all remote. That is fine, but I do miss my partner in crime, the Meko. He's not here today. I do have my voice back. Very excited. You're going to hear a lot of that today and probably a lot of questions for Meko. Very excited to be back in the saddle here. But please like, follow, and subscribe the Questionable Podcast on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can listen to your podcasts. Also want to touch on, we got Jeremy. The I'm a Real Journalism hoodies will be going out tomorrow. So Jeremy and crew, if you're listening, they're coming. They'll be there in the next couple of days. We hope you like them. Also, news. I wish I don't have a little news thing. Gionne is now on the gram. Welcome to the gram, everybody.
I believe this actually made it onto the show. I mentioned this before.
He's been fighting it for years. He says years. So he's finally on. I think his sister made him do it. They made him do it. So anyway, John, welcome. So, enjoy it. Don't get too distracted down the rabbit holes that is Instagram, but welcome. And Meko and I are trying to get John to get a Gionne Hendrix Twitter account. That's next. So once you pop, you can't stop. It's like Pringles. So now you got to do a Twitter, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Well, because Gionne has a lot of great takes that I think would be perfect for Twitter.
What? Absolutely. I think John was built for Twitter. Meko likes Gionne was built for Twitter.
I'm learning to love it. I'm learning to like Twitter. Yeah. I think Gionne would be perfect for Twitter with all of his deep thought takes. I think Twitter would be the perfect place for the Hurricane to kind of live.
I think it is. And I think we just let him go. No restrictions. Just keep it 100. Keep it Hurricane. Yeah. Keep it Hurricane, Gionne. Keep it Hurricane. Anyway, so we're gonna dive into the show. We got a lot to cover. I just want to cover a couple things. The Red Wings won a big game against the Rangers, 3-2 at Madison Square Garden in a shootout. Thomas Greiss was the goalie, played lights out in the shootout. And Suter won the game-winning shootout goal. So props to the Red Wings, looking good. Again, something we probably won't talk about tonight, but I do want to talk about this summer is the Wings and Yzerman. They seem to be setting precedent for the rebuild in Detroit. They're doing really good job. Big D Energy talked about it today about how Yzerman's really doing well, but it's because he doesn't get questioned like anybody else, right? It's Steve Yzerman, so he can do it. It's why he's playing, right? It's like, nobody like taking Moritz Seider at, with their first pick, like, who's this Moritz Seider guy? Like, no real questions, but the guy has been an ace and delivered. Between him and Lucas Raymond, I think we got players that are going to be here for the next decade, right? Larkin played great. But what was crazy, which is interesting, Madison Square Garden has the worst ice notoriously in the NHL, and it was very, very, very warm. They got there and I guess the puck was bouncing all over. It looked that way. And in the shootout, the puck would bounce over the stick. So guys would do a deke and the puck would roll over their stick. And one of the guys didn't even get a shot off because it bounced over his stick and to the side. He didn't even get a shot. So it was kind of interesting to see. But anyway, shout out to the Wings. They play the Avs tomorrow, right? Big game, always a big game with the Avs. Avs are good this year. Also, next month is the anniversary of Fight Night at the Joe with Darren McCarty. Shout out to D-Mac. We got some artwork coming his way, Meko. I am still working on that. I'm excited about that. So we're getting close to being done with that because we got to make some pieces for him and send that out. So that'll be cool. Very exciting there. So today we're going to talk about Juwan Howard real quick, Aubrey Pleasant, Cade Cunningham. I think that's the gamut for today. Am I missing anything to start, Meko? Yeah.
No, not for that. Not really. I mean, I know you have a couple draft questions that we might get
lots
to later today.
Lots of questions. As you can tell, I'm feeling better this week. Much better with a voice. Deal with it. So anyway, we're going to start right out with Juwan Howard, right? Juwan Howard was suspended for 5 games. Meko, correct me if I'm wrong. He's suspended for 5 games, but he can coach if they make the Big Ten tournament or if they make the tournament, correct?
Yeah, so any of the tournaments that they make, any of the postseason tournaments, Juwan Howard will be eligible to coach for those, which I mean, when so Scott was the first person to kind of send us the video of the incident. So when I
I was
saw it,
I
I
was
was like,
on it.
oh,
I was on
I was
it.
like, wow, like that's different. But I think my first reaction was like, oh, that's probably 3 to 5 games, right? 3 to 5 games.
Yeah, you called that.
And so he got the max of 5 games. But now, like, I don't know, having a little bit of time to sit on it and getting to hear other people's perspective, I do feel like they should have suspended him for the postseason as well. Like, not that like Michigan's having a terrible season anyway, but just to set a precedent that like, dude, you can't take swings at people in the handshake line. Like it's you're a grown man. You can't be out here playing front hand backhand with people just because you don't like how somebody else coaches their team. So yeah, I do feel like he kind of got
Front
off
hand,
a little
backhand?
easy.
Front hand,
Front hand
backhand?
back, front hand backhand.
Never heard it. Never heard it.
Oh, it's a Key and Peele sketch where
Gionne, have you heard this? Okay, see.
So yeah,
which is
you guys gotta
interesting
look
because
it up.
I'm a
I
big
love
Key and
Key and
Peele fan.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, you guys got to look it up. It's a
I'll look
sketch
it
where
up.
basically they basically play front hand backhand and he's just slapping him in the face.
Sounds
And he's
about
like,
right.
I can't. And Jordan Peele's just like, I can't wait till it's my turn. He's like, it's never gonna be your turn.
I may have to get back in that, rewatch that. That show's great. Okay.
I don't know. I'll see if I can find a way of
agree.
throwing
No,
it into
Juwan Howard, they're the adults in the room. What are they doing? Both of them. And the Wisconsin coach did not get suspended just fine, correct?
Yeah. So Juwan Howard also got a $40,000 fine. The Wisconsin coach got a $10,000 fine, and then there were a couple players that were suspended. Most of them, I think, are just suspended like 1 game though. So
interesting. Also, I was wondering how this would like go with recruiting, or how U of M would obviously they spoke out against it, right? U of M did. But did you see the post? Like one of the top 50 recruits was like free Juwan. So like, is that a good like what are we taking from that, Meko?
If it was my kid, I wouldn't like. That's
right.
not.
No,
that's
we don't
not
want that. But
that's not the message. That's not the statement that you want to make. Yeah, mainly because, like I said, like this whole incident with Juwan Howard is dumb, right? It's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. I wanted to believe that, like, oh, Juwan Howard reacted in a way that was going to be like, oh, something was said and he just reacted. And then to see like this is all stemming from a timeout. Like this is stemming from one coach calling a timeout at a point when you personally feel like he shouldn't have, but he did. And you somehow decided to take that personally, right? Like, well, this is you being a child.
Right? Well, this is, I think, his frustration with the way the season's going. Maybe is it
that's
more
still a personal
just,
problem, bro?
Totally agree. But I think this is more than just obviously more than just a timeout. I mean, I don't know what. Clearly, other things are going on, right? For him to lose it like that.
I mean, clearly, but it's just this is one of the worst things that I've seen a coach do. I mean, obviously I wasn't around when, Bobby Knight was out here chucking chairs at people, but it's just like it's a little ridiculous to see, like, and to hear the rationale. Like I listened to his press conference and I was waiting for like he made a disparaging comment, or he called me out my name or something that would be like, okay, I see. If we're going to be like, yeah, I didn't like the timeout and I didn't feel like he should touch me. And then to see like the montages come out later of like all the times he's shook hands with the coach from Wisconsin and he's literally touched him the same way, like reaching, like shaking his hand and grabbing his elbow at the same time.
Right.
Like, bro, you were just in your head.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I'm with it too. Like I had echoes of the Isaiah Stewart, LeBron James thing. I mean, in a much smaller capacity, in that I was expecting the slap, punch, whatever you want to call it, shove. I was expecting that to come like right out of the gate. Like they come at each other, you're in my space, get back. But like there were words, they were yelling, like it went on for a while before that thing,
right?
Before that blow was thrown. So to me, that was kind of the shades of the Isaiah Stewart thing. Was like it went on longer than I thought it would. And that to me was also the problem. And I agree with Meko. I think they should have suspended him for the postseason too. I think because of that fact, like had it been, like a Jim Schwartz and who was that?
Yeah.
Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Like
Schwartz and
Harbaugh just like slapped his hand and Schwartz like rushed after him and was just like, hey, got in his face. Like you can't disrespect me like that. And then backed off and that was it. And it was just like this one moment of, rage.
Yeah, that to me was a little bit more disrespectful than what I saw here. I mean,
but yeah, with Juwan Howard, like it just kept going. And like, and to me, yeah, that was the problem. And I think that's why it maybe should have been punished a bit more severely than it was.
Yeah. I mean, also like to the point of like, of any disrespect, right? I feel like, in my personal opinion, like the disrespect starts with Juwan Howard.
100%.
Right? Like I know people want to be like, well, why'd you call a timeout? You're up by double digits, whatever. Listen, that man is allowed to coach his team however he wants.
Absolutely.
He's allowed to coach his team. Like, it's not like they were taking shots. Like, that's the other thing. Like, there's an unwritten rule in basketball, right? Where when the game is clearly like done, right? And the clock's kind of ticking down or whatever, like you don't shoot the ball, right? Like you just don't. You let the clock, go down, and then you just kind of like let the game end. But
nobody else got that.
You don't shoot the ball. And so if that had happened, I could understand why Juwan Howard would be like, oh, that's a sign of disrespect. They're out here trying to run up the score on us. That's not what's happening. So any level of disrespect starts when you decide that you want to go through the handshake line and you want to just do a blow by where you're like, oh, I want to just completely ignore this guy. But at the same time, you also want to exchange words. Like you can't do both. If you're going to be man enough to say something, then be man enough to have the conversation right then and on the spot. But Juwan Howard didn't want to do that. And then for it to escalate, like John's saying, and for it to last as long, like the dude you hit isn't even the dude that touched you.
Right.
That was like my biggest thing.
It all fell apart. I mean, then the players got in and went crazy. So on to the next. Izzo, right? So the conversation goes from this to, do we even have to have handshakes anymore at the end of games, right? Izzo says, obviously Izzo, he gets really heated during games and everything like that, right? Michigan State. So obviously they ask Izzo, and he says, no way. Like that would be a joke to get rid of it. I don't think they're going to get rid of it. I think it's a hot topic right now. Meko, I know you had a quick point on this and then we'll move on, but I don't think they get rid of it. I do think that that is where confrontation happens. We've seen it before, right? But I just don't know that you get rid of it. But Meko, you had a point.
I don't even know if it's so much that you don't get rid of it. I don't think this should be the incident that you're like, well, this is why we should get rid of it.
Sure.
Right. You had one coach that decided to be a jackass. Like, just move on.
Just move on from here. Okay, we're going to move on. Okay, we're going to move on from that. Juwan, don't hit anybody anymore. Okay, Juwan, thank you. Okay, so moving on, we're going to talk. I think we're going to hop right into Aubrey Pleasant here, right? Right, Meko? Right, guys?
Yeah, there's a little bit of news on Aubrey. Yeah, there's a little bit of news on Aubrey Pleasant. So it apparently seems that we were kind of waiting to figure out what was going to happen with Aubrey Pleasant with the New Orleans Saints DC job. And it at least sounds like some of the reports that are coming out is that New Orleans is going to hire within for their defensive coordinator position.
Aubrey's coming back,
which is a huge win. I agree with you. Like, it's a huge win for the Lions. Now it's not official, right? It hasn't been officially said because the New Orleans Saints still haven't officially hired anybody.
Better not change their mind.
But that's kind of what it sounds like. So I guess the big question though is I don't know. How do you guys feel? What do you guys think this means for the Lions kind of going forward?
Gionne?
Well, I'm still reeling from your comment there. Was that for whatever reason that hit me. But no, I think this is unequivocally great. I think this news This news on the back of also Jeffrey Okuda posting to Instagram that video of his recovery, doing the sprints.
Barracuda.
Granted, I haven't really seen him sprint in like an enclosed facility, only in pads and game situations. So I don't know how to compare this with what it was, but I mean, for a man who ruptured his Achilles, he is moving quite well. And we've talked about in previous episodes about how the biggest heartbreak, one of the biggest heartbreaks of this season, has not being able to see him develop under a year in the same way that Bobby Price and AJ Parker and Melanofu have. Okuda was kind of robbed of that. At least I'm sure he's still doing film. He's still in the locker room, but at least
with the new regime, right? The new leadership, right? I think that's
yeah.
We were excited to see that,
and I think So the same day that we're getting news that, while again not official, that AP's coming back and Okuda posts that, I feel like the not going to say the stars are aligning, but we keep saying that a lot of this process requires luck and things that are outside of the control of players, of coaches. And it certainly seems like the chips are falling the Lions' way. I think this is a win. I have a question that I want to throw back to you guys. With Aubrey Pleasant coming back, are we okay with him taking over the defensive coordinator position in a year or two? Because I mean, like that's where it seems like this is where all of this is going. They're setting up a system whereby if you lose your DC, it's next man up for the players. Now it's next man up for the coaches. So Aaron Glenn, if we go from 3-13-1 to, again, based solely on strength of schedule, I can see us getting anywhere between 7 and 10 wins next year.
Whoa!
I said I can see it. I can see it. I'm not going to make any firm predictions here.
7 to 10. I mean, I hope so.
Dude, we play the Jets. We play with the Giants, Jets, Dolphins. Like, we play every bottom tier team next season. Like, we play 7.
So much so they didn't raise the ticket prices too.
We play 7 teams that have first year head coaches next year. I don't know.
Yeah, good point. Okay, I retract that.
And so anyway, if we do as well as I'm predicting, Aaron Glenn might be gone. Are we okay with Aubrey Pleasant taking over?
Meko, I'm gonna let you take this.
I mean, I am, right? I mean, that was the kind of like the heart-dropping feeling when Aubrey Pleasant started taking interviews, was like the fear that you were going to lose that heir apparent, because as great as Aaron Glenn is, he is working side by side with Aubrey Pleasant, and Aubrey Pleasant was getting a lot out of that secondary. So I will feel more comfortable probably after year 2. But yeah, I think Aaron Glenn is going to always kind of, for the next couple of years, is going to be at least in the talks for taking a head coaching job. Not to mention with a lot of the minority coaching hires and things like that being an issue. I think that's going to be a bigger issue next offseason. I think you're going to see a lot of that conversation come up again. So I think Aaron Glenn's going to once again rise to the top of the list of a lot of coaches or of a lot of teams to be looking for a new head coach. So if you can at least continue to groom AP into that role, then yeah, it would do a lot for Lions fans to feel comfortable that if we find any level of success, that we can kind of keep it going, even if AG leaves.
I love it. So I should have done this instead of the laughter, though. I'm gonna redo.
Yeah, that's more appropriate.
Okay, I apologize to everybody out there. Didn't mean anything by it. But 7 to 10. Okay. All right. There we go. The Hurricane added again. Okay.
Well, I mean,
not to mention, John, also, like, the Lions did lose. What was it like? Didn't they lose like 6 games by 3 points or less?
Yes. Most in the NFL.
So I mean, that's another potential swing, right? Everything is
least in the NFL. Do we say least? Is it least in the NFL? least
Or,
home runs?
it depends on how you phrase the stats. So like most
Correct.
games lost by fewer than 3,
Thank
fewer
you.
than 6 points, whatever.
Got it.
however you wanna
Okay,
phrase it.
just wanted to clarify for everybody.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's another reason to believe that they could, right? You're bringing back your entire coaching
I
staff
mean, I
outside of
hope
the
they
middle
do.
linebackers coach.
And so leading into that is we're talking the number 2 overall pick. Correct? Is that where we're going to go now and talk about the second pick?
Well, yeah, because I think obviously with the Lions, that's the pick that everybody has their eye on. And that's a lot of conversation. I think a lot this past weekend, there's been a lot of conversation about what the Lions do at 2, and there's going to continue to be a lot of talk. But one conversation that I got to be a part of this past weekend was, is there a level of risk in taking someone like Malik Willis at 2 because he may not be considered an impact player?
Right. And so like I was just saying, I don't know, again, apologies for the internet, but we have to win the draft. This like Holmes has to win. Again, I think last year could we say last year's draft was a win for Holmes? Could we do we agree on that?
Yeah,
right?
I think
Yeah,
so.
I think
And
I think it's a solid B.
Right. So he hit with Panay, right? And that was
Yeah.
the pick that he had to make and he had to get right.
Mhm.
And he did. I think this is the next pick he has to get right. You know, I think the Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think that was good on you. I think you did well for everything. But right, I mean, Panay and Amon-Ra, I could say that everybody drafted was solid, right? But this year, the second pick, he's got to nail this year. Okay. And so to Meko's point, so I think the conversation, is it an impact player? Everybody keeps talking about, oh, like they need to take an impact player. And Malik Willis isn't, quote unquote, an impact player if he's going to sit behind Goff for a year. Now, Meko, I think you had a point where we were headed. And again, go ahead. I'm sorry, but I just want to.
No, you're good. No, but to that point, right? So yeah, a couple people are saying that, right? That like, well, you can't take Malik Willis at 2 because Malik Willis at 2 is not an impact player because he has to sit behind Jared Goff. And
Right.
I say that depends entirely on how Malik Willis performs in camp. If you were to take Malik Willis at 2 and he comes into your team and he basically has a Mac Jones-esque camp where he's the clear-cut better player.
Yeah, he's the guy.
Then he immediately jumps to impact player. He immediately justifies that pick. Not to mention, if we talked about this last week with Jeremy as well, if you're picking a quarterback at 2, you've kind of already told your fan base and you're making us aware that you believe quarterback is your number one issue on the team.
Right.
And so you kind of have to be okay with that. But hopefully the Lions would do the right thing then in making that pick and then making it also an open competition so that Malik or whoever they decide to take has that opportunity to start. I think they would need to be given like a fair opportunity to potentially start because you clearly already, identify that as a position of need.
Right. So Gionne?
Jeremy also said that pick number 2 has to be a home run. Now, granted, he didn't qualify when, like in what year? I mean, but I'd like to think that he meant home run, not in 2023. And so I don't know. As loyal listeners will know, I'm not on the draft to QB train. So I think it's still a little too early. We talked about this with Jeremy. We talked about the plan. Now, granted, we don't know what the plan is, but I think judging by how they've drafted so far, I think they are going with slow and steady wins the race. And you saw it with Sewell. It kind of, I think it was not released, but known that their draft board was Chase, Sewell, Parsons. That was 1, 2, 3. If Chase was gone, they picked Sewell. If Chase and Sewell was gone, they were going to pick Parsons. And I think, we saw, look at the closing play of the Super Bowl, pass rush. I think no matter how the game has evolved, it is an offense-dominated league, offense-heavy, but I think getting someone who can make the quarterback throw the ball errantly, make bad decisions, scramble, panic, that is still incredibly important. And I think
That's fair.
that a Hutchinson or Thibodeau, whichever one you value higher, I think that is, we were talking about impact player. I think that's not just impact in the short term, but I think that's impact in the long term as well, more so than a quarterback, especially considering that this is widely known as a quote unquote weak quarterback class. I feel like, we've talked about this, that these narratives emerge, that people are going to drop, people are going to climb in the,
everything's going to change. It's still
Yeah.
settling. The dust is not settled, and it won't settle until like draft day, like first pick. So I'm with you on that. I mean, okay, so we know John doesn't not really into the QB thing. I do think that there's going to be a part that nobody's going to get outside of the Lions organization. I think it's this culture fit. I think that Dan Campbell and Holmes are building something. Now, I think this is a conversation probably between Holmes and Campbell, right? Of if, like, let's just say Willis or Thibodeau or whoever they pick, right? It's an attitude thing, I think, too. I think the culture is a huge thing for Dan. Now, I think that Holmes is going to make the right decision for the organization, but that Dan's going to be in his ear about it, right? I think at the end of the day, Holmes' decision, he'll decide what that will be and who this person will be. Now, Meko, can you clarify for me? There's some good safeties in this draft class, though, correct?
Yeah, there are some good safeties in this draft class. Specifically,
so we would need to pick one early to get one that if we want a safety, right?
Yeah, I mean, the value for a safety isn't very high at number 2, right? We've kind of talked about this in our own like group text. I think we kind of talked about it a little bit with Jeremy. But yeah, like the value for safety just isn't there, even though you have people that are saying that Kyle Hamilton may be the best talent in this draft.
And they're saying that he's more than a safety too, right? That's their argument too, is he's unique. He can do more than he can be more than just a safety. Now, I don't know what that is, right? And they're saying that the role of a safety is morphing a little bit potentially, or that you could, am I right?
Specifically the role that safeties play in the Lions defense specifically. And this is something that came directly from Aubrey Pleasant, right? When talking about Tracy Walker, right? And saying that, like, hey, they ask Tracy to do a lot in their defense. They ask their safeties to do a lot in this defense, as far as coverage, as far as blitzing, as far as lining up with man and making calls. So there's a lot of emphasis that's put on that. So if you're in that camp, which there are people in that camp that are saying, like, hey, you take Kyle Hamilton at 2 because of talent and the importance that safeties play in our defense,
right?
Then you have an argument that could be made. But then I think that is where the conversation of impact comes up, because it's like, okay, but can you count on that impact, right?
Sure.
That is impact that has to be schemed heavily, in my opinion. Like Aaron Glenn would have to come out there and scheme up things specifically for a Kyle Hamilton to justify that pick. And maybe he succeeds at it, maybe he doesn't, but
which they could do, but you're adding another variable into the success of an individual, right? And
everybody knows, or most football minds know, the best way to help your secondary players is to have a good pass rush. So
which we don't have, right?
Well, it's a question mark right now, right? Like we don't know what Romeo's going to what Romeo was going to be like when he comes back next year. We don't know if Julian Okwara is going to take that jump that he needs to take. We don't know if Charles Harris is going to be consistent, or if this was just a flash in the pan. There's a lot of unknown variables here outside of, again, we don't know what players that they could potentially bring in. So when there's that many variables, but you know that this is an area of weakness, well, then it kind of pulls you in that direction of like, well, you need to strengthen this unit because there's too many question marks. We don't even know if the Lions are going to re-sign Charles Harris, right? Like we don't even know that part yet.
But we did do it.
I want to go back to something you were saying.
Go ahead. Yep. Go ahead, Meko. Yep.
Oh, I was going to say, I wanted to go back to something that you were saying about culture, though. And this is something that I am struggling with. And I know we asked Jeremy about it last week, as far as
I brought it up to Jeremy, and it's a tough question to answer because only like Dan, those guys can answer it.
Yeah, because I feel like as much as I do, I want the Lions to have a very good culture as a team. I want them to have good players. And this is where we were just talking about, like, okay, how do you judge impact players and like the value of that or whatever? I would rather them pick impact players over a culture fit right now because I feel like they need it. I'm not saying that you pick somebody that has like a rap sheet of like
I'm with
arrest
you.
and things of that nature, but you pick a guy, for example, right?
But
I think
at
a
two,
lot of
you should
people
be able
love.
to get both. At two, you should be able to get both.
Well, but the point I'm trying to make is that like a lot of people love Aiden Hutchinson because the first thing they say is, "Oh, he's a Dan Campbell guy. He's a guy that will fit Dan Campbell's culture. Campbell will love him." All this stuff, right? But if Kayvon Thibodeau has the higher ceiling, if people are projecting that he will have the better career, to John's point, right, that he will be the long-term impact player,
Then you take him.
I would rather you take him, even though he's not quote unquote a Dan Campbell guy, but you like you're saying, well, there's no question about his character though. He's never been in trouble. He's never been considered a bad teammate, X, Y, and Z. And then you trust the leadership that you have in place on your team through coaches and players to help him acclimate to the culture that you set.
If the culture is so strong that we're saying it is, they should be able to bring in talent and have them fit the culture and grow within the culture. And if they can't, then they can move on. But I think that if what we're saying is true, so I appreciate your point, Meko. Right. So maybe it is, I think that was just a question, right? Is there going to be some sort of decision in regards to culture? But to your point, no, we need to bring the talent in and they can fit our culture. Maybe, right, Meko? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
No,
right?
I just more so feel like, don't be trying to and I think John, you kind of brought this up last week. Like, you're looking for guys that fit Dan Campbell's mold. Like, don't be so bound to that you're just like, well, no, this guy has good character. He's always been a good teammate. He was a good student, yada yada yada. But he's not a knee biter. Like, dude, not every guy needs to be that. If he's got talent, bring in the talent and continue to surround him with the coaches and the players that will get him to buy into the culture that you've set. Because if he's already a hard worker and all these other good things, then he'll adapt.
Yeah, I mean, the hard work thing, I think is a given with this group, and
it's a given.
Not saying that I disagree, but I think one thing that I would add that's going through my mind as you're saying, because I kind of agree with you, but again, talking about long term, and if Brad and Dan are thinking in 5 to 10 year terms, they're only 1 year into this process. Is that too soon? Like 1 year in, is that too soon to okay, yeah, we got the culture under wraps, blah, blah, then, because they re-signed Kabinda, and a lot of people were kind of on the fence about that, because now I don't know the specifics of his contract, but I know, do any of you guys know?
I don't. I can look it up really quick while you keep talking.
Okay. So the thing was that people loved Kabinda. They loved how hard he played. And they know that he was a Dan Campbell favorite, but they just were off put by the price tag. And, but he falls into this mold of a knee biter, hard worker, do it all guy. And so surely there are probably more talented guys than Jason Kabinda in the NFL at fullback. But so I just wonder, I guess I'm not disagreeing with you, I guess, in my ranting, where's the line? Because I think there should be a line between, at what point do we start valuing talent over work ethic? And I don't know if or I should say, at what point do we start valuing culture fit lower than acquiring talent? I don't think we're there yet. Like when the Patriots brought in Randy Moss, and he was kind of known as like a diva, blah blah blah, and then he came in and he played incredibly well. But the Patriots were established the Patriots at that point. Had they brought him in year one, that might not have worked. Or I'm sorry, year two.
But I would argue. So, well, first let me give you the contract numbers on Kabinda. So Kabinda signed a 2-year contract extension. The contract value is $4.1 million. Basically, $2 million of that is fully guaranteed. So It's not. I mean, I don't know the average. I would have to look up the average value of a fullback. Maybe that's a lot of money for a fullback, but Kabenda did also play like some tight end as well once Hawkinson went down. But to go to your question, I think Brad Holmes already kind of answered that in a little bit, right? Because when asked about free agency, he was like, "Well, we're in the talent acquisition phase, right?" He feels like,
right.
I think if anything, you can probably question if they have enough players to lead. You could maybe question that a little bit. I don't think you can question the coach leadership that's in place. And I think Brad has enough. I think Brad has enough faith in Dan, AG, AP, Deuce, and those guys to be able to say like, no, like these coaches are going to keep these players in line. They're going to hold them to a very high standard. They're going to do the necessary things to coach them up.
I mean, look at
so
AP.
I don't think you take right. Yeah. You look at AP in game 1 of the season and getting after a 3rd overall pick, under his first year of coaching him, like AP did. I don't care about your draft status. You have a job to do. I think if that's the mindset of every coach, then it doesn't matter who you pick at 2. They know that their position coach is going to hold them to a high standard. So whether that's an Aiden Hutchinson, whether that's a Kayvon Thibodeau, the message is going to be the same. You have a job to do, and it's your job to execute that. I still think so to a degree. Like I said, I don't think you completely forego talent or culture. I don't think you completely forego it. You still need to get guys that will work hard, right? But you need guys. But you should also know that what I also have the coaches in place where if a guy needs a kick in the pants a little bit, he's going to get that from these guys.
Right, that's fair. But Meko, I think we're getting there. I think we're all saying it's something similar. But to your point of getting the player that's going to work hard, I mean, I think the culture is going to get the player to work hard, no matter, right? I mean, I think this is part of the culture. Is this team? I mean,
that's a good point too. I mean, one of the things that we heard a lot about the Patricia,
and they love it, and they're into it, and they're all on board. I mean, like we've talked about, a team that won 3 games to have everybody wanting to come back. I mean, Kabinda could have taken less money and gone somewhere else, right? I mean, if he after opportunity arose, right? I mean,
and I think
also we signed Woods. Didn't we sign Woods today too?
Yeah, so we signed Josh Woods, who played special teams, and he had a quote that I saw somewhere. I think I saw on Twitter about how, I saw it on Pride Detroit.
Yeah,
he had a quote about how one of his first interactions with Dan Campbell was Dan was like, hey, how are you doing? How's it going? And he was like, it's going good, coach. He was like, all right. He was like, well, hey, the quicker you pick up this, he was like, we're going to start you out on special teams, but the quicker you pick up this playbook, the quicker you will get defensive snaps. And Josh Woods was like, I've never had a coach be that upfront and honest with me.
And so it gives you. He was in Chicago before, so he was in the Bears with Nagy and that whole. So his comment is right, like coach never talks to. He was a practice squad guy, right, Meko, in Chicago.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he was the same with Kabinda.
Right.
Same with Kabinda. Kabinda was a practice squad guy, and
these coaches coaching them up here. Yeah, I mean, and that says a lot, and it says something too because Nagy's out of a job. So there's that. But anyway, Meko, I appreciate that's a really good take on that.
Yeah, so I think again, I do. I think they can find impact players. Whether it's at 2, whether it's at their last pick in the draft. Like we've continued to say, I think it's one of those things where it's in Brad Holmes we trust at this point.
I agree. I'm going to just press Gionne, who do you want to take it to this week? Should we do week to week? Yeah. Should we do week to week picks?
I
would have said Willis last week, but I'm Thibodeau this week. John,
I'm sort of this week I'm on the Hutch wagon.
What?
Yeah. I don't know why. Well, after Meko texted, because like I had this completely unfounded assessment regarding his like size. For some reason, I thought he was like undersized, and again, based on completely nothing. And then I texted you guys that, and Meko's like, no, he's like 6'7", like 220, 30 pounds.
Big man. Yes.
So I was like, oh, okay. Well, so yeah. So now, that's Quelled.
You heard it here
I'm on the
first.
You heard it here first. Hutchinson is a big person.
Yeah,
Gionne thought he was
260.
Gionne thought he might be a little undersized.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
who do you want to take this week? I think this will be fun. We have a couple. Who do you want to take this week?
yeah, I've been Kayvon Thibodeau from the start.
Yes,
And,
you have.
you know,
I will agree. I'll give you that. Yes.
I don't foresee that moving. I don't foresee that moving for me.
That's smart.
I believe in his talent. I believe in Kayvon Thibodeau's talent. He was the best player in high school, one of the best defensive ends year to year. He was a little banged up this year, but was still like, this is one thing that like kind of bugs me, and I'll try to make this short. Right? There's a lot of people that have been like kind of ragging on like his work ethic and like, does he love football and this, that, and the other. Kayvon Thibodeau was projected as the #1 pick from the start of the season, right? So It was a lock. He was a lock for #1 pick in the draft. He gets injured. I want to say first or second game of the season. He could have packed it up and just been like, you know what? Not going to play the rest of this year. Not going to risk my draft stock. I'm going to go prep for the draft. You know who did do that? Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa did that when he was at Ohio State. Nick Bosa played 3 games, got hurt, and said, yeah, because he was projected to be a #1 pick. And he got hurt, and he said, nope, not risking this at all. So to question Kayvon Thibodeau's desire for the fact that he came back and played,
right?
No, he didn't have Aiden Hutchinson numbers as far as sacks. He still came out, still finished with like 7.5 sacks. Like, he still showed up every week that he was semi-healthy for his teammates and played. I feel like that should be the first thing that we should kind of like think about before we start saying like, oh, this dude doesn't love football.
No, I appreciate it. And this is some of the BS that happens around the draft and is these rumors of these rumors of these guys like, oh, their attitude stinks or that. Like, I don't know the guy. I don't know the kid. I'm hearing this through a third party that, you know, like what, like couple weeks ago, like, oh, he might not be fully invested, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like, we don't know. And again, to John's point about the agents and all this stuff going back and forth, like, we don't know. You know, the only thing that I know is that I'm a champion. And before Gionne has to go, just can take a quick look at the trophy. We got it all set up.
You're actually using airtime to do this?
Clown Bureau. Yep. Here we go. The champion. Love it.
Go ahead and let him know, John. You said it all fair. Go ahead and say
no
it
one
now.
cares about your fantasy team. No one cares.
Not
a single person cares.
Yeah, right there.
I'm getting that put on
Randy's revenge. Dirty Randy's revenge won. It was his.
That's gonna be some questionable podcast merch. Nobody cares about your fantasy team.
That's actually a really good shirt. That's actually that would probably sell. Nobody cares about your fantasy team. We should probably make it in women's sizes. They're probably like.
Oh yeah. No, I think we'll have to make it in both because I think that's a sentiment that'll be shared.
That would be a good one
amongst men and women.
Okay, so we can't do this any other way. Gionne, I think you got to roll red carpet.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Dinner with Brad Pitt again. Tell Bradley I said hi. Well, all right, please tell him he needs to make another movie. I need to see him again. He's been in nothing. He's too busy dating. He's too busy dating right now.
Is he? I'll let him know. I'll ask him about that, and
I'll
say,
tell him to get off the scene and get back to work.
Scotty Questions wants answers.
I want him in another sports. I want another Moneyball movie. Moneyball 2.
Moneyballer.
Anyway, all right, John. We'll let you go.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, sorry about that. It's all my fault. Sorry, John.
Bye.
Yeah, that probably works. So, yeah. So and there's the thunder for Gionne departing us again. Anyway, all right. So we covered a bunch of topics. I do want to get into Cade though, Meko, and talk about Cade. Cade, he had a really great All-Star weekend. So I thought that was great to see, right? I think that he's been coming along. I think that he's been he had a rough start to the season, but it was really great
Yeah.
to see him get a little bit of a reward here. Can you break down what the All-Star format was for it was all the rookies, right? Or what was it?
Yeah, so they have a new rookie sophomore game format this year. So basically they decided to do like a basketball tournament. And when I first heard of this, I thought this was going to be really stupid. It actually turned out to be really fun and really cool to see.
Why did you think
Um,
it would be stupid though?
because like I didn't understand how they were going to have like mini tournaments, right? And I didn't think they'd be competitive. Um like we talked about like 2 weeks ago, like all-star games are never really competitive. Like you rarely get to see good
Yeah,
basketball.
we had a half an episode on that.
Yeah, so I was a little skeptical because again, like the rookie all-star game, like they've tried different formats, right? I think they used to do like rookies versus sophomores at one point in time. Then they used to
Right.
do then they switched the format to like US versus like world. So they would put like all the international like rookies and sophomores on one team and then all the US rookies and sophomores on another team.
Right.
They got rid of that format and now we have this format. And this was actually really fun. So basically you had 4 teams, I believe, and they were playing to the first 2 games that they played were up to 50. And it got super competitive. Like once teams started kind of like getting close to like, started crossing like 30, you saw guys playing actual defense, actual Cade's team was actually running like offensive plays and things like that. So it was really cool to just see the dynamics of these players playing together. And a lot of these guys, most of them weren't teammates of each other. Like you did get like a nice little mixture of players on teams. I think Sadiq
Right.
and Isaiah Stewart got to be on the same team. But anyways, Cade
Who
did
was on
great in that.
Cade's team? Do you remember?
The big names that I can remember off the top of my head, because they did have a couple G League guys in there.
Right.
So it was Cade, Evan Mobley, who was the 3rd overall pick in this draft. I want to say his name was just Jayshawn Tate, who was a draft pick by the Rockets last year.
Okay.
He also made, I think, all NBA first team last year. He played really well. He actually had the game-winning bucket in the first game that they played. I think there was also Desmond Bain, who plays for the Memphis Grizzlies, and then I'm kind of blanking on some of the other guys.
That's okay. I mean, we appreciate all the players. We don't. I put you on the spot, so I apologize for that. But what I took away from it was Cade. And it seems to me that Cade is the leader among like that class and his class and like that generation. He feels like a leader of those guys. And that's why he went first overall, right? I mean, really his mentality, his attitude. And I think that might've been part of the issue, in Detroit is he's trying to take over a team, of a bunch of number 1 picks, right? Or for
he's
trying to in Detroit.
Right. The difficulty that Cade is running into. So there was a stark difference, in my opinion. And granted, it's an all-star game, so I'm not trying to blow it up to be anything bigger than it was. But there did seem to be a level of freedom that Cade got to play with in this all-star game, and with some of the teammates that he had, that just seems that's very different than what the Pistons have. And the clear outlier of that, or the clear example of that, is what he had in Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley, 3rd overall pick in the draft. I believe he's like 6'11". He's a do-it-all big man, right? He can shoot the 3, right. He can face up, he can cut to the basket, he's athletic. And you saw a lot of like pick and roll between him and Cade, and it was eye-opening, where it was just like, yo, like you get Cade, a guy like this, which they may have that in Marvin Bagley III, who they just traded for. If those 2 guys can get that level of chemistry,
there we go.
Cade is going to be very special. Like he already is very special. He has all the things that you want,
but he can realize his
all-star
potential sooner. And I think then you build his confidence, you get him going younger, instead of having, a couple tough years, I don't care who you are or how mentally tough you are. It still will wear on you.
Yeah. Losing wears on anybody. And you can just see that like the type of talent that Cade needs around him. In my opinion, we've talked about this before. Cade, in my opinion, right now, the only player that he can really count on to probably go to war with every single game is Sadiq. Right. Sadiq was the other player that played in these games, and Sadiq shined. Like, Sadiq has a grown man game about him where you're just like, dude, like, this kid needs to get the ball more. This kid needs more shot opportunities. This guy needs plays drawn up for him because, in my opinion, Cade and Sadiq are all-stars in the making. They are.
That's
Sadiq
great to
reminds me
hear.
so much of Chris Middleton. In my opinion, he will be the perfect Robin to Cade's Batman. Like, in my opinion, he is the perfect Robin to that. And so, but you need to be able to scheme them up, and you need to be able to build an offense where they can excel at that. So yeah, it was really cool to see Cade kind of get some shine, because he's on the second worst team in the league. And I think he's oftentimes forgotten because they are so bad.
Right.
Evan Mobley is getting a ton of shine because they're the third best team in the East. So there's a stark difference in the amount of attention they're getting. But Cade has played really well. He was able to get the MVP. I was a little shocked that he got MVP, not because he played bad. It was just because of the tournament format. It was kind of hard to keep track of like his points and all of his statistics, from game to game. He had a really good first game. I believe that was the game that he got like 13 points. He finished with 18, so he only scored like 5 in the second game, but he made plays, right? He did a lot of the things that showed a lot of the skill set of why he got drafted number 1 overall. He can pass, he can rebound, he can defend. He did it all, and so it was cool to see him kind of get recognized for having a complete game over that competition. And then they also had like the skills challenge, and so they had like 3 different teams. So there was Giannis had a team of like him and his brothers because they're all in the NBA. So that was kind of funny. Then they had like a Cavs team, and then they had a rookie team. And the rookie team was Cade, Josh Giddey, and Scotty Barnes. And Cade's team made it to the finals, but you had to like make a half court shot. Like whoever made it the fastest would win. And so Cade's team made theirs in like 9 seconds, but then like the Cavs team made it in like 2. Like their second shot, like they made from half court. So, but again, it was still a good showing. Cade still again showed great passing, great ball handling. Like,
and he
it
got
was
the
just
MVP, right? So he won the MVP.
Yeah, he won the MVP over the rookie sophomore game. So, like I said, all in all, it was a good week for him, and I think it was a lot of like reinforcing the things that we already know about Cade, right? We know he's a great talent, but to your point, it also showed a certain level of leadership to be able to get with a different group of guys and still stand out amongst them, and to be able to kind of will them to a win in that type of
Yeah, that's
setting.
awesome. That's awesome to see, because it's been we haven't seen a ton, like you said, because of the Pistons. They're not that good, and we're questioning coaching a little bit, and there's a lot. I mean, it's a rebuild. So but to see that in Cade, and really to appreciate that, and really, like I said, to finally see, oh, there he is. There's the number 1 pick, right? I guess the best way to put it is, there he is.
Well, yeah, I think for everybody else who's not getting to watch Piston games, and you're just like, hey, what the heck is the number 1 pick of the draft been doing? Because the number 3 pick is about to go to the playoffs, right? So it's fair to wonder, right? Like, what is the number 1 pick doing, and what is the number 2 doing, and so on and so forth. And yeah, Cade stepped on the scene and showed like, no, I can ball. Like, it's just the Pistons are in a really tough situation with their rebuild. And this upcoming draft and what they do in the offseason is really going to have a huge impact, like you were saying, on Cade's development. Right? Like, it's okay if you have a season like this once, fine. But if you start having seasons like this, like if you become the Sacramento Kings, this is not going to be good for Cade's mental at all.
Right. Yeah, and that's tough. You got to be careful, and you got to protect him, right? So hopefully, with that trade we made, right, with Bagley,
Bagley. Bagley's played 2 games. He's looked good in those 2 games that he's played. I was telling John this before we came on air. I fully expect Marvin Bagley to probably start next year. I think he'll develop better chemistry with Cade. I think he's going to fit Cade's style of play better than Isaiah Stewart does, because at the end of the day, as much as we love, or as much as people love Isaiah Stewart here, right, at the end of the day, he's still 6'8", and he's not an athletic 6'8". He's a tough 6'8". He's he's maybe Udonis Haslem. Like he's not the guy that's going to make a huge difference in wins and losses, but he can do the small things that can help, get you a
Right.
win. I think you try to, resurrect Marvin Bagley's career, right? He was a top 2 pick, I believe, in the draft that he was drafted in. So you get him with Cade and Sadiq and whatever draft pick you get this year, you might have something really good. You might be able to be in the situation that the Cavs are in this year. If you can do these things the right way and you can get the right coaching in place, you can make those types of big jumps in the NBA, in my opinion.
Well, I hope so. I'd love to see the Pistons get it together a little bit, because I think I do believe that all the other teams have got it heading in the right direction. And I think, again, the moments like Cade getting the MVP and looking the way he looked, okay, there's a glimmer, right? Okay, here we go, right? It's just a little bit of positive momentum headed that way. So again, that's good to see. I mean, so that's awesome. So thanks for that. Do you want to touch on the combine at all or anything that's coming up?
So I think we can touch on it more next week because that's when it is going to kick off. But yeah, combine kicks off next week. I'm super excited and a little bummed. I'm not going to be able to watch the whole thing because I'll be at like a youth retreat with kids from my church. So
okay, but that's cool.
I'll miss. Yeah, I'm super excited for that. But yeah, so I'm gonna miss. I'll get to see like the quarterbacks and wide receivers day, but then the days that I really want to see are the defensive days, and those are on Saturday and Sunday. So, but yeah, we can definitely talk about that more.
Yeah, I'll probably be
week.
recording it for work anyway. So I'll have some.
Yeah,
stuff.
I set up DVR today because I was just like, once I realized I was gonna miss it, I was like, well, let me be able to. I'm gonna do my best and put on my scouting hat and try to see if I can.
There we go.
Play an NFL scout for a
All
weekend.
Right. I like it. That's great. But anyway, I think that's it. Is there anything else we want to cover? I think that ran the gamut of what we were trying to do.
No, I think we did a good job. We finally got to touch on everything. It's been really Lions heavy the last couple weeks. But we got a little wings in there.
Little wings and my IT issues didn't help us starting out either. So that's why we lost John Soros. So I apologize again for that. But yeah, I think that's it for this week.
Yeah, man.
All right, man. All right. Well, we'll call it, again, please, like, follow and subscribe the Questionable Podcast. Yeah, I just want to thank, my wife and my daughter for letting me do this again. I want to thank the fan, I want to thank the crew, everybody for supporting us. I'm very excited for the combine next week. Vegas draft coming up. I will be at the draft, so confirm that. So that's exciting. So we'll be there. Yeah, Meko.
Yeah, definitely got to thank my wife, my kids. They did an awesome job of being quiet. They're on midwinter break, so
boy.
Yeah, we let them stay up late, but they did a great job of keeping the noise to a minimum while I was able to do this. So
didn't hear them at all.
Nah, angels.
Love it.
But yeah, huge thanks to them. Huge thanks to my family. Everybody that's been a huge supporter of Questionable Teas and the Questionable Podcast. We've gotten a lot of great engagement, made a lot of really cool relationships and connections via Twitter and other social media. So it's been really cool to be able to see the brand growing in this capacity. So it's awesome.
One person at a time. So all right, we're gonna keep it rolling. We got a big, like I said, we got a lot of big things coming up, right? The combine, the draft, DMAC next month. And these pieces we got to get out, which we can talk about after this. But anyway, I think that's it for today. So that's it. So we appreciate you guys. The Questionable Podcast out.